To test a fuel pump, we need a 60 amp current clamp and also a current loop. Now the current loop is what we use in place of the fuse. You can also use a jumper wire with the proper ends. Here at the fuse block, we're going to take our current loop, remove the fuel pump fuse, and install that into the current loop. Then we'll install the current loop where the fuel pump fuse was, and then take our amp clamp and we're going to connect it onto the current loop. Make sure you turn your amp clamp onto the 20 amp range. Then here in the Picoscope, we're going to channel A, probe, and then current clamp in the 20 amp mode. And then for our range, we're going to select 20 amps because it was a 15 amp fuse. For our time scale, we're going to do 50 milliseconds per division so we get a good clear picture. And then we're going to set a trigger for a single trigger. And we're going to set it right around 1 amp. And that way, when we turn the key on and power starts to flow, we'll be able to capture this waveform on a single page. And that way, we can just worry about this one page of whether the fuel pump's working or not. So here's our waveform that we've captured. And as you can see here, that as we turn the key on, we passed our trigger. And then here's our fuel pump as it starts to spin. And every lump here in the waveform is a commutator bar inside the fuel pump. And so we can see how well the fuel pump is working. If we zoom in, we can see really clearly how many commutator bars are on this fuel pump. And we can go through and count them. And we'll see that there's a pattern of 8 commutator bars. Now 8 commutator bars is really common on fuel pumps. And so as we see this pattern, we can go through and know where the start and the stop for a full revolution of the fuel pump is. Then we can come down to this corner, grab our little white box, and pick one of our spikes to lay it on top of. And then we will go back and drag out the next one. And we can count out the 8 commutator bars that run across our fuel pump. And then as we let that go, it'll show us the time that it took for our fuel pump to make a complete revolution. And if you come down here to this corner, it'll actually show you the RPM that that fuel pump is running at. And this is important to know in certain diagnostic situations, because if the fuel pump was running slow, then we know there was a problem.